Hello and welcome to the Claret and Blue podcast, sponsored by NordVPN. All the information that you need for Nord is in the description down below, including a delicious discount code. I'm leaving it in. Why not? Leave it as it is. I'm your host for this one, Dan Rolinson, and I'm joined by John Townley. I'm in the office. John's not. You lazy git. Where are you?
I'm off, mate. Oh, well, I'm supposed to be off. Yeah, off for 2 days.
Oh, my bad.
Backfired, didn't it?
Thank you for joining us. Let's get into
I'll
this.
leave.
Sorry. I'm in the office because I was filming something else, which you will see on Wednesday. We're not planning to be doing this from the office today, to be fair. I thought I'd be at home as well. I'd forgotten that I was coming in. Anyway, we're here today to do our weekly Q&A, as always. This mic's in a weird position for those that are watching, so apologies for this. I'm in a bit of a weird setup. Before we get into the Q&A, John, specifically, let's just chat West Ham. Bloody hell. Let's just chat West Ham for a little bit, a couple of minutes or so. You must have been buzzing in the London Stadium on Saturday evening.
I was, yeah. A brilliant away day. It brought back last season, really. We won like every game in London. Palace doesn't matter. I went to Palace and I watched us lose and I didn't care. So in my head, it didn't count. That is a result that didn't matter. So yeah, we won all of our games in London last season, I think. Really good to kind of get back on the road and watch Villa win another match. Fantastic way to start the season. Great limbs in the away end as well. Get like a perfect view of it because of the way that where I'm sat in the London Stadium, could see the bottom tier and the top tier really well. So I always enjoy a stadium where you can see the away fans well. Like quite a few of them, it's either too kind of high up and there's like a canopy sort of thing ahead of you. I don't know, but West Ham Stadium's good for that, but it's not good to watch the football. But I did get a good view of John Duran's goal as well. So yeah, it was really good day and a perfect way to start the season.
Do you feel a little bit vindicated that you were the one that stuck up for John Duran and said he's a great player a few weeks ago when I was saying, oh, well, has he got a future at Aston Villa anymore? Oh, I don't know.
I mean, between me and you, maybe, but I think a lot of people could see the talent he had. I just, I stuck up for him just because, I say stuck up for him. I think he was very stupid and, well, we all know that from throwing up the hammers gesture, etc., irons gesture, and I don't doubt something like that may happen again in like literally at any point because it's John Duran and he's just been.
I'll just check my Instagram now to make sure he hasn't done something silly.
Yeah, like something will happen. He'll delete his photos again. But I really like how Emery's treated the situation. I'm probably going to write a piece about it, but it's almost like a masterclass really in management. In managing players, and this is something that Emery, I think, has been criticised before. When he was at Arsenal, it was always, but he can't deal with the big players or the big attitudes and stuff. Well, you don't get them more, blatant in John Duran. So, yeah, I think he's done really well, Emery, to kind of just diffuse the situation at all points. Really, he's only spoken once about it, really, in the press conference, the pre-match press conference, and he just said, "Yeah, it's Youngster's mistakes. We'll crack on with him, and we think he's an excellent player, and we're fully committed to him." And now he's scoring goals. He's not just sulking John Duran. So last season at points, he looked visibly frustrated just playing for Villa, which again didn't look good. But you just know that there's so much talent there. So I'm really happy that for anyone else that it's Emery, really, that we can kind of say, well done for handling the situation as well as you have, because Villa could have easily just accepted 30 million. And at the time I was thinking, well, they might just let him go because it's one less problem as such. But this is a business as well, and Villa know that this guy could be worth any amount of money at any point in the next couple of years. Like he's that good. He should be leading the line for a team like West Ham who are trying to get into Europe. He would probably be leading the line for Chelsea, I think, because I think he's better than Nicholas Jackson. Jackson's a good player, but I think Duran is better. And yeah, we have a player who, to be honest, is too good to be back up to Ollie Watkins, in my opinion. But that's part of having a really good team, and you just hope that Emery can continue to kind of ground him, because Duran scores, and now Duran probably thinks I should be starting against Arsenal. What's going to happen when he tells him that he's not? If that is the case, Watkins, of course, looked a bit rusty, shall I say. But yeah, now Villa have another challenge with Duran to kind of keep him in his box almost and say, okay, you've done your bit, thanks. We'll continue to give you more opportunities, but you're not going to be starting ahead of Watkins, because that's the player that scored 19 goals last season. So that is a challenge, and that is a constant problem. But if they can handle it, it's worth it, in my opinion, because of the talent that Duran has.
Yeah, don't ruin one of my future questions about Watkins and Duran. We'll get to that in a little bit. We'll start with something from Matt. This is not a question, but just something that was interesting that I wanted to throw up in the opening of the podcast. Of the team that finished the game yesterday, all of the following are under 24 years old: Ramsey, Duran, Costa, Nedeljkovic, Maatsen, Jadon Philogene, Onana, and Rogers. I don't think too many of us would have been overly concerned if they'd all started, which shows how great our talent acquisition and forward planning has been recently. If you compare and contrast that to some of the substitute options we've had in recent years, to be finishing with an average age, I think it was 22 point something that I saw in a different post. That is something that we've not seen from Villa in recent years, and that quest to bring down the age of the average age of the squad has kind of gone under the radar a little bit. This is a squad now that is good now, but could be frighteningly, could be scarily brilliant in a few years' time.
Yeah, exactly. And even Bailey and Tielemans, they're both 26, 27. Watkins, I think, is 28 now. But they're not. And I know it's a bit of like a thing in football of when you turn 30, that's it. You know, you're on the decline. And McGinn, I think, is 30 now. But it's not the case. A lot of players can play till they're 34 at a high level. So, there's no worry that those players are all of a sudden kind of, they're doing that and then they're going to plateau. I don't think that's the case. I think they can only get better as well. So yeah, it's just that we have it in an extreme way when you bring on Philogene, as you say, Maatsen. We have Rogers on the pitch already. Ramsey comes on. Duran. Emery spoke about that almost in every interview that he did after the match, saying, because obviously everyone asked him about, your 3 substitutes combined for the goal, which was obviously very good. But he always said, and they're actually very young as well. And I don't know what exactly the point he was trying to make was, really, because as he kind of just mentioned, and they're young as well. And we can obviously, as you say there, Dan, kind of take it as like, Villa's recruitment's done very well and they can definitely grow. But I presume what Emery's trying to say even is that they're like, they're not afraid and we're not afraid to play them as well, because yes, they're young, but they're impacting the game in the Premier League just by combining for a really nice goal, as I say, against West Ham. So yeah, fair play to them, and they've come to Villa with, with the kind of attraction of playing in the Champions League, of course. But I genuinely feel like Emery is the main thing here, and obviously playing for Villa is like for a lot of players, or for the players that we've got as well, is like an honour for them. They always say it, but to play under Emery, they know that they're going to get better. It's a no risk transfer for them, basically. So yeah, whether we'd be in the Europa League or even the Conference League, I still think I don't know if we'd have the money, to be fair, but we'd still be able to attract players. The money side is what the Champions League, that obviously helps as well. So yeah, Emery is the main catch here for me, and he's already making a difference with those players, and they can already see their own development like Onana as well. He probably enjoyed that West Ham game more than any other Premier League game in his career, to be honest, because the way that he played for Everton was so different. He couldn't play the game. I remember saying when we signed him, and I always struggle to explain myself when I talk anyway, to be honest, which can go for a podcast. But the point I was trying to make at the time was, we've signed a player who he couldn't actually play his best football for Everton, which sounds like he isn't a great player, but actually no, it's because they're playing so different, and Dyche is asking him to do many different things that isn't what he'd be doing at Villa. And he said that after the match as well, of like, it's nice to play under a manager who tells me exactly what to do and when in this certain style. And I don't think he was trying to disrespect Dyche, but it kind of basically said he had like one function, which was to probably head the ball and block players from running past him, whereas at Villa he's on the ball, he can go forward, he can go back as well. So yeah, really good debut from him too. Something that also aesthetically pleasing about that second goal being the 4 passes or the 4 touches all being left-footed. I don't know why that's good, but it just is. Torres down to Maatsen. The little Maatsen's touch was excellent. Ramsey putting the ball across on his left foot, and then Duran scoring with his left as well. Just something about that is really nice. I don't know why. And as well on that, if I can just Duran, I don't know if he started the move, but he played his part. I think he played it to Konsa, I think.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, and I was watching the highlights back on Match of the Day last night or whatever. The way that the move started when Duran played its Konsa, and then he followed his run the whole way, and then he basically played offside when Maatsen had the ball, I think, and then come back into the box. A really good movement as well from Duran, which kind of goes under the radar. I think that's something that if we weren't a very good team and we analysed every goal, because we don't score many of them, and we'd pick that out as like, oh, what brilliant movement from this player. Well, actually, because we're that good, that sort of stuff just comes naturally to our players now. Like every point in that goal, there's something that's of real quality.
One thing before we get into the questions, I think I want to tweak one of my big predictions from the predictions preview show that we did on Wednesday. We can't really do this. I can't remember who I actually picked for most assists. I think I went Leon Bailey. I want to change mine to Ian Maatsen, John. I think we'll see that move of Torres chipping a ball down Maatsen's side, him rushing down to the byline and cutting it back to Ollie Watkins, John Duran, John McGinn, Leon Bailey, whoever it is. I think we'll see that move quite a lot. So I want to tweak one of my predictions, Ian Maatsen, top assister next season.
Allowed?
It's not allowed. I'm the host. I can do what I want.
To be fair, I can't say otherwise. Yeah, there was a moment as well where it was so close. I feel like, and I don't want to kind of nitpick, but just the final ball from Maatsen when he was played down the side again. I don't know if you remember it, and he had Philogene at the back post. Do you remember that one? We were 2-1 up. Oh, obviously 2-1 up. Just to make it 3-1, and I just thought, it was so frustrating watching it back because you can see in every moment kind of all you got to do is just, I say all you've got to do, but it was a tap in the back post, but he got his cross just slightly wrong, just fractionally, because it was a very tight gap between Areola diving and a defender kind of clearing it. But I'd back him to have found Philogene if he did it again, because he's clearly got a lot of quality, Maatsen. And to be fair, when he came on, I thought it was absolutely excellent. Firstly, Luca Dean was one of our most consistent players last season, and I think he played well for the time he was on the pitch, and definitely a fantastic backup. Villa, do they have the two best left backs in the league?
Oh, that feels rogue, but it probably isn't. I've not really given it much thought.
It is. It's difficult to talk about City because they play centre backs in the fullback area sometimes, and they kind of just put City up there anyway. Just whoever they have, probably the best. But then Villa, I don't know. Like Liverpool don't. I don't think. Do they have Simicast and Robertson? I'd rather have Dean and Maatsen. Who else exists? Man United's left backs are injured all the time, so I'm not fussed.
Chelsea's got about 3 million.
Yeah. Tottenham have a dog. He was a great player, and I don't know who the left back is. To be fair, is it Ben Davies or is he left?
Davies played left back last season.
And then you've got Arsenal as well, who have, again, similar to City, they have like Zinchenko, but then they have Calafiori and stuff. So I would say Villa have probably got the two. If you're talking out and out left backs, Villa have probably got the two best. Maatsen and Dean, fantastic. And yeah, Maatsen he plays different way to Dean, and I think this is the kind of player that Emery really wanted in terms of when he had Moreno, because he spoke when he signed Moreno. He said he wants two different profiles, and he obviously didn't have that with Augustinsson, who isn't a great left back. But yeah, Maatsen comes in now and is playing like a winger. He played as a winger, as a youth player on the right wing, left wing. He's obviously a left back now, defended very well too. But it was at every opportunity on the counter attack, he was just bombing on down the wing. And yeah, that's where that other opportunity came from. When I say probably had the great chance to play it to Philogene at the end, but unfortunately got cut out.
Yeah, and how you balance that in terms of Maatsen becoming a starter, because he will. It's inevitable. We spent a lot of money on him. He will be our first choice left back at some point. I don't know whether it's as soon as this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dean plays again against Arsenal, and then Maatsen maybe gets Leicester, and then maybe from then it's Maatsen's position. Yeah,
possibly. And we saw how much Moreno and Luca Dean swapped in and out after Moreno came through the door for the 22-23 season, and then last season as well. There was a bit of chop and change as well during matches, because they are two good options, and they say two different players as well. Maatsen, if he comes off the bench in the last 20-30 minutes, that right back, it's a nightmare, isn't it? You got a player who's rapid coming up against you. You've just been bombing up and down. Luca Dean isn't kind of trying to get past you too much. He's different kind of player, and now it's a completely different task for that right back. So a fantastic weapon as well. And Maatsen, it looked like he's very fit and capable of doing that for 90 minutes. So it won't be long until he starts. But again, like if he has to come off, then Luca Dean comes on, and fine. Luca Dean's the left back who we played when we finished fourth, and could have done even better without injury last season. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic bit of depth that we have at left back.
Right, on with the questions then. We'll start with a different Matt. Also, John, all of our questions this week come from Threads for the first ever time. I normally ask for questions on Twitter, but I'm fed up with Twitter, as many others are. So for the first time ever, there seems to be a bit of a Villa community now on Threads, which is basically Instagram's version of Twitter. A different Matt than the one I nicked the comment off to begin with. He asks, I know the majority of us would take a European place this season in the league, but if we can beat Arsenal on Saturday, does that change our expectations for the season after just 2 games, which I absolutely love? That this is pure
Sounds
football.
like the West Ham game has changed our expectations.
Well,
already.
this is the thing, isn't it? This is pure football being back, isn't it? We've had one Premier League game. We've won when I think most of us probably would have taken a draw, or maybe some expected a defeat. That we're now going into it going, well, if we beat Arsenal, that means we've beat Arsenal. We're 6 points. We're maximum where we can be. We're going to Leicester. Well, we can probably beat them. That's 9. All of a sudden, we're going, oh, can we finish better than where we all thought?
I've already looked at our whole fixture list and totaled it up. I got to about 65.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, I really shouldn't be doing that.
That's sad, isn't
it? Yeah. Arsenal's going to be a difficult game. And I you know what? I was so enthused by the performance against West Ham that Arsenal, it'd be fantastic if we can get a result. But even if we don't, I've seen something against a good team in West Ham. I know they didn't have all their signings, but we've already spoke about they had the momentum, or they had, the fanfare of Lopetegui's first game, sunny day, 5:30 kickoff, like all of that. It was all there, prepared for them to have kind of blown us away. And I don't remember Martinez making a save, to be honest, apart from the Danny Ings header. And when Emerson shot with his right foot at the side at the near post, he was never going to go in. So, we could have been 3-0 up by half time, really. We should have been. So, from that performance, I've seen enough that it's only the first game of the season. Newcastle beat us 5-1 and finished 7th. I've been really infused by that. So let's go into Arsenal, see what we can do. I'm not going to change what I said at the start of the season, though. I still think finishing in the top 6 would be a fantastic season, whether we finish 6th or 4th. I mean, obviously 4th would be outstanding and, wow. But top 6 is still my aim at the moment. Emery's aim will still be top 10 for now until we can put more results together. Like, we won 9 of our first 11 games last season. We're only 1 game in. We have 10 more games to go to be in that situation. And I think after that, I think we beat Tottenham 2-0. Maybe it was our 11th match of the season. And there was a lot of matches obviously before that, and it felt like we did a lot even at that point. So it's really, really, really long season. So let's just continue as we're going for now. It's only 1 result.
Let's move on to the next question. These are in no particular order, so apologies if we go all over the place. Villafan.com asks, if you were to predict how many signings and how many departures will there be before the window closes, and who could they be? So how many signings? I think we'll sign 2 more. So that's a forward and a defender, a right back / centre back. So Geertruida is then the profile that I'm thinking of at the moment. By the way, I will say that us talking about transfers, this is not in the no information. This is not John as a journalist saying this is going to happen. This is just, most of our podcast is opinion anyway. So this is my opinion. A right back / centre back and a forward, not a João Felix specifically, but a type of that player, can play number 10, can play further forward, etc., etc. So I think 2 incomings. In terms of departures, I think Moreno seems likely, possibly Olsen, but I doubt it. I think Duran will stay now. Then Donk, if we can shift him, we would like to shift him. And I still think Carlos will go. So I'll say 4 outgoings and possibly like a couple of loan players. I'm
interested by the 2 Juve lads, to be honest, who weren't in the squad against West Ham. I think Barrenechea is one worth keeping around, because if Onana was injured or Kamara, it's difficult because...
It doesn't sound like Kamara was a million miles away, does it?
Well, he's not, and we don't know what level he's going to be at. But if Kamara gets injured again, or, if he stubs his toe or whatever, and he's injured for a day or for a match, Onana would play in that holding role, and then he'd play alongside Tielemans, as we've just seen against West Ham, and that worked well in that match.
Yeah, very well.
Barrenechea feels like the 3rd choice for that holding role, in my opinion. If Kamara was coming back in January, I'd say, absolutely, keep him. And I really like what I've seen from Barrenechea, absolutely. But because I've liked what I've seen, and we know that he's still quite raw, I don't know if him staying around, and sometimes he might not even make the squad, is the best for his development. So I do think there's a situation here where we need to really think about it, because we have a lot of depth here. We have Barkley, Tielemans in one of the holding roles, and McGinn, of course, who can play there too. And then the other one, you've got Onana and Kamara, who are both capable of doing the more defensive side, should we say. When Kamara and Onana both fit, they can both play together. There's a lot of combinations, and you can mix and match, and you've still got depth in both sides of it, the kind of the creative Tielemans side and the destructive Onana side from the West Ham game. Berenachea, as I say, he falls down the pecking order a few times there for me.
Yeah.
In the Champions League, yes, we can have more players in the squad, but that doesn't mean he's going to play. So I wonder if we'd be open to a loan. Now, I'm not saying that we are. It's something that I'm going to hopefully ask Emery on Friday if nothing happens before. Absolutely think that Erling Jr. needs a loan because I don't see how he gets in the team. Ramsey and Rodgers can both play on that side, as can McGinn, as can Tielemans. Matson could play as a left winger if needed. I'm struggling to quite see where he fits, and I like what I've seen from him pre-season in patches. But again, they're 20 years old. I just feel like he probably needs a loan, and I know injuries can occur over the course of a season, but it just feels like we've got a lot already. And when you say about a new forward coming in, Dan, if Duran goes, a new forward would come in. But if Duran stays, which at the moment is the most likely thing, we don't have space to bring in another forward unless we make a sacrifice elsewhere. I know Karen Archer's gone, but he was almost like a free slot because he was a club trained player. It would take an Erling Jr. to leave on loan or a Berenachea to leave on loan, or maybe both, for us to bring another one in, I think, just from looking at the list, which is all that we can go off. So, yeah, that's the kind of an interesting situation for me. And, yeah, Carlos going would obviously open the door for Geertruida or a Joe Gomez or a Nathan it's not Nathaniel Chalobah, is it? Trevor Chalobah. Yeah, Trevor. But again, no update on that situation as we record right now. So we'll see how that one goes. Geertruida played 90 minutes and captain Feyenoord. I think they beat PEC or Pek Zwolle 5-1 at the weekend. So that would be a nice way to kind of end his career if that is the case.
Brutal. Okay, let's move on. From Steve, who says, Watkins' body language seemed off against West Ham. Was he just lacking match sharpness, or do you think his head got turned and was tapped up whilst playing in the Euros? Has happened to Villa players before. It has. I would be amazed if Ollie Watkins was to leave in the next, 10 days.
Yeah, that's not happening.
That's not going to happen. I don't think he will have been tapped up by somebody. I think he's happy at Aston Villa. I think he wants to break the all-time Premier League.
He's tapping them up.
Well, yeah, it should be the other way around, shouldn't it? I think he wants to become Aston Villa's top all-time Premier League goal scorer, which he could do this season. So maybe, I don't know, if he did score 20 goals, maybe he does leave next year, which I absolutely do not want to entertain at all, by the way, but just for the sake of this question. I think it was just an Ollie Watkins game that we've seen before, that it's early season, he's not had any pre-season at all, and he can sometimes have those games where he doesn't do very much at all, but then maybe in 3 weeks' time he goes on a scoring streak of 5 goals in a row, and we're all going, oh, yeah, that's the Ollie Watkins we know and love.
Absolutely no problem for me. He was rusty because this was the first game he's played since coming off the bench against Spain in the final, and he didn't really do a whole lot there. So, that was over a month ago. He hasn't had a pre-season, which every player every player needs that, just to getting in the rhythm more than anything else is what we were saying during pre-season. It's getting in the rhythm of things, finding your feet again, all of that stuff. It might take him a few games, maybe until after the international break, which he'll be a part of with England, which is a bit like, rather than just take Bodymore to kind of stick around with Southgate, Jesus, with Emery. No issue for me at all, to be honest. Just I expected him to play a bit rusty, and he did. Duran came on and scored. So yeah, it's just kind of emphasises again how important that backup is and how important it is to have different options, because you never know in across the season when a player might have an off game. But I think we all knew that this was always going to be a bit of a tough ask to say to Watkins, you're going to have to score 2 goals today to win the game, which is maybe what we might have said last season because he was in such good form. But Emery even said after the game, like, the plan was to use both players. He chose to use Watkins first for 60 and then bring on Duran, which, yeah, again, we'll see what happens on Saturday with that one. But, no problem.
Next question from Paul, who says, if Watkins starts against Arsenal and has a similar performance and gets replaced by Duran, who then scores, lots of ifs there, does Duran then get to start against Leicester?
It's an awkward one because in my head I'm thinking, well, it works that way, doesn't it? Because
it's a bit like the Leon Bailey situation, isn't it? Of maybe the start of last season, or maybe the one before, that he was coming off the bench and playing so well that it was kind of like, well, that's his role. He's a finisher, is what we call Leon Bailey these days. He doesn't start games because when he comes off the bench, he's so impactful that I think there was a stage where he came off the bench and then started the next game and was crap, and it's like, oh well, he can't start games, Leon Bailey. He's not good enough for that. in hindsight now is silly. But you do have that same kind of feeling with Duran that, yes, he's only started a couple of games. The point is he's been better off the bench. So you think, well, if he does start a game and he does nothing and he gets subbed off, we've lost that kind of spark then to be able to bring him on. Whereas, as we know with Leon Bailey, yes, maybe in a year down the line, we are talking about Duran having to start games because he's too good to only be on the bench. But at the moment, I think, whilst his impact is so high off the bench, I say so high, it's been 2 games, thinking of the end of last season with Liverpool and the start of this one, he's doing his job of what we're asking him to do. Come on and affect the game.
Yeah, this was a key thing that I was quite scared about, actually, that if Duran was to go, which, for whatever cost it was, Villa were going to take the best option for them. So I was kind of happy because we don't see what happens behind closed doors at the training ground. If they were going to accept 30 million, which they didn't, but if they did, it would signal that, okay, they just want him gone. As far as we understand, the valuation was more like 40 million, which obviously hasn't been met. But Villa, if they were going to sell him, what the key thing I was saying was we don't have anyone in the squad. If it was Cameron Archer, or maybe if we brought in someone else, or if we did, they would have to come off the bench and make an impact and be a player that can do something different. Because if we brought on a player who's like for like to Watkins, well, it's the same task to what those defenders were dealing with before. What I love about Duran so much is his physical capabilities more than anything else. He can get among players and kind of ruffle them up a bit. He makes an impact, even if he isn't scoring goals. Even his kind of mannerisms on the pitch, he'll kick someone when they're down, sort of thing. And the dark arts, you can see he's got that stuff in him as well. Like, there really is a full package there that I love. Little stat for you. So John Duran has now scored 6 Premier League goals from just 616 minutes played, which is an average of one in every 103 minutes. Among players to have scored 5 or more Premier League goals, only Haaland has a better minutes to goals rate, which is, there you go. Like, the impacts that he made against Burnley last season to win a penalty, obviously Liverpool for us to push into the Champions League pretty much. And then Palace as well last season. I'm sure there was another that I can't quite think about now. But yeah, he is a top talent, and I just hope we can continue to manage him well. And I feel the annoying thing is I feel that's kind of out of our hands, to be honest. Yeah. Again, if he doesn't start against Arsenal, he might just delete all his pictures again. And to be honest, who cares? Because he's done that over the summer and thrown up a nines gesture and then still scored on the opening day. So as long as he continues to perform, Duran is going to be Duran. Some footballers are like this and they have huge egos, but if they're scoring goals for Villa, ultimately, should we worry about everything else when the club have shown that they're capable of controlling it until this point at least?
Next question is from SJ, who asks, what exactly is the point of VAR? I assume this is referring to the Matty Cash penalty incident, which obviously me and Matt spoke about on the post-match show on Saturday evening. We both said that we didn't think it was worthy of being a penalty. It's, potentially clumsy. But the point here of the question is that the explanation from VAR was that, yes, there was a touch on the ball from Cash, but he's not played the ball, which to me sounds contradictory. I don't know. You can touch the ball and not be playing it. I don't know what the difference is really. It used to be in the olden days, you touch the ball, whatever happens after, it doesn't matter. If you take the man, who cares? Like, you got the ball first. It's a little bit more nuanced than that now, I suppose. But yeah, what do you make of that whole VAR situation? Not necessarily about the penalty specifically, whether it was or wasn't, but the reasoning of just like, well, yeah, he's touched it, but he didn't play it.
I thought it was a disgrace, to be honest. The guys won the ball, and then Souček's flopped over afterwards. If you watch how Souček falls, Cash wins the ball. Yes, he didn't kind of clear the ball away as such, but he's won the ball. He's changed the direction of the ball. So he's basically he's tackled Souček because the ball has now gone in a different direction. So Souček can't now wrap his leg around the ball to score. So he's tackled Souček. Yeah. Then Souček thinks, oh no, the ball's away from me. I'm now going to fall over. And then he wins a penalty. It's a disgraceful decision. McGinn had not a similar one earlier in the match, but I've even seen those ones given last season. McGinn kind of flopped over probably more, and he'll admit it, McGinn, that he wouldn't fall over like that in a bar. But those have been given, and in that, those should be more so penalties than what we gave away, because Kudus kicked the bottom of his studs and didn't win the ball, as far as I remember, therefore impacting what McGinn does in that moment. Whereas Souček, Cash tackled him. And then the referees just bought it and thought, oh, actually, Souček's fallen to the ground. There must be a penalty. And the VARs thought, oh, it's the opening day. Everyone's watching it on Sky. We can't overturn the ref's decision here. Give it Like, that's genuinely what I thought they were thinking. It's it's the first weekend of the Premier League, and there's already joke of decision. Like,
that wasn't the only one.
VAR didn't even work at Goodison Park or whatever, or the lid was shut. Like, how basic is that? It's hilarious. Well, not for
Everton fans, it's not.
And then the Palace goal, like, it gets to the point where I feel bad for the refs in a way, because the ref who's just come into the game, first Premier League match, he was refereeing against Brentford and Palace. He's probably having a bad morning, and he had a bad night last night. He's, everyone's talking about him having a bad mistake in the game, and it's like, humans make errors. But why is it so? Why do we have to be so like cut and dry that, but if he blows his whistle before it goes in, he can't change it? Just change it, man. Like, why are you being so extra about? Like, just, it's like when Grealish had it's the same situation. So I'm not going to sympathise with Palace fans too much, to be honest. But when Grealish got fouled, and then was it Clattenburg? No, not Clattenburg. Who was it?
Kevin Friend, of
course. But then they couldn't change it because he blew his whistle before the ball went in or whatever. Like, yeah, but we've all seen it's a mistake. So just, get off your high horse sort of thing and just make the right decision. I just think in those situations, everyone can see it's a mistake. Literally, the whole population of the UK would say, no, to be fair, that was a goal. Just give it. It doesn't matter if you're blowing the whistle. And no one would bat an eyelid. Like, it doesn't matter. Just do the right thing, basically. It's not difficult.
You done?
Yeah, I'm doing. And the Villa one, again, Cash, he won the ball. That is just a poor error from the official. But then when a VAR don't have any backbone themselves and say, "Oh, mate, you've made a mistake," I don't care how many people are watching. It's I have no faith in them, and I don't think many people do, and it's a shame. But yeah, Villa, thankfully, I don't know how to say it, but they've had one of their bad referee calls of the season, and they've managed to win the game still. So hopefully that's one of the 6 that we get, or however many it is. It's probably much more than that per team, because everyone gets them in every other week or whatever, and we've still won the game. So yeah,
thankfully their incompetence has not affected us. Basically, next one. I enjoyed that little outburst, John. Thank you for that. We've kind of touched on this earlier when we were talking about Onana and Enzo and Kamara, but just very quickly, Peter asks, who is the first choice midfield pairing when Kamara is fit? Now, I know we say a lot about there isn't such thing as a best 11 and it depends on the opposition, and that is true, but there is still an element of the best. Kamara and Onana feels like the best, but you wonder how those two can play together. Although what I did say on the post-match, I'm sure you'll agree, is that I saw people giving Onana much more credit than they were when he signed, as being this kind of reputation of, well, he's 6'5", he's a tall, physical, strong player who will win headers and basically break up attacks and then pass it off 5 yards, and that'll be his role. Whereas after Saturday night, there was a lot more praise for his kind of technical on the ball skills, and maybe a little bit of realisation that he's actually a better footballer than I think some people were giving him credit for. So to say that Amara and Kamara couldn't play together because all they do is sit there and screen the defence and do nothing else is harsh on both of them. I think they could play together. But then you think, what about Tielemans, who played very, very well against West Ham and went under the radar a little bit? What about McGinn? What about Enzo? What about Barkley? And those are in order of further down the pecking order. But, there's still options there. If you're picking a best 11, a best midfield pairing, very quickly, who are you going for?
I need to see Onana and Kamara play, basically. I could say that I think it could work, but obviously that's not very clear-cut, is it? Kind of sitting on the fence for that one, to be fair, but then I'd be lying if I said that, Onana and Kamara will do this and that. We need to see it to believe it. And then Villa may play in a different way. Who knows? Kamara might then drop into a back 3, and then maybe we play Cash and then he'd push on, or Costa. I don't know. We'll have to see what fits, because even in the game against West Ham, Rodgers played in support of Watkins, which I was surprised at. I thought McGinn would do that, and then Rodgers would play left, and then McGinn played left and tucked in a little bit more as well, almost to create a midfield 3 at some point. So maybe that would happen. You'd have Onana, Kamara, and either McGinn or Tielemans playing in that sort of role, in that kind of left space, more advanced, but then can come inside. So, there's a lot of options there, and Villa will change tactically as these matches go on. But it's great options. In my head, I'm thinking, well, you can't leave out Onana because he's a £50 million signing, and Kamara is a defensive midfielder, at least before his injury. And I don't think this injury has been too bad anyway, to be fair. In terms of what ACLs are, there aren't many better defensive midfielders. I'm sure Liverpool would probably be looking at him if he was fit right now, because they need that kind of player. I'm very happy with the options. in my head, I'm thinking Kamara and Onana would have to play as a two. But then, Tielemans outstanding against West Ham.
Okay, next from Barvit77. If Duran stays, we then have Rodgers, McGinn, Tielemans, Buendia and Bailey, who could all play alongside the main striker. Yet there's loads of chat about us signing another forward. Do we actually need one?
When you put it like that, I don't think we do. But Emery does. So I should give my opinion more here, but if Emery wants it, I would really struggle to go against that. Right now, in terms of the options that we have, I don't think we do, because we have a lot to play there in Rodgers. I say a lot. I do think we could probably add one more, and I have previously said that I think if there's one thing missing from the team, it's that bit of stardust behind Watkins. What I saw from Rodgers was outstanding against West Ham, but I feel like we probably could have another player who can do it in a different way, someone who's better in tight spaces, whereas Rodgers, he put the ball up on the halfway line, and when he went, he was unstoppable.
Yeah.
That, is perfect for a game against West Ham, especially when you score the first goal. I think Felix, if we were to get him, and it looks very unlikely, as I say at the moment, but absolutely I'd welcome him because it's a top talent in your squad that I don't think we have. But what I'm trying to say is if we don't get another forward in that could play in support of Watkins, I'm not really going to change what I think about the season, if I'm being brutally honest. We are probably one injury away, to be fair, from being a bit lighter in that position. Yeah. But you've got Buendia on the bench as well. And I know Buendia isn't as good as a Felix or whatever, but these are still options, and we're still playing these players' wages. We can't just stock loads and loads of players because we're just being problems later down the line. So I'm pretty content, to be honest, with our forward line at the moment. If we don't add to it, I'm okay with it. If we do, then I'm sure it's going to be a player who's going to possibly take us to that new level again, or at least add something that we don't have. So it would be a good signing if we add it, I'm sure. But for me, the defence is the one we need to bring in another one. But
I do still feel like you're right that we need something else. I'm really kind of worried for halting Morgan Rodgers' development potentially, because I feel like he will be that support act to Watkins at the moment. If we don't sign anyone else, I think that's where his role is now, behind the striker. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think we will see McGinn and Tielemans playing kind of off the left and then coming inside to support a midfield. So if you're picking a best team now, you've got Bailey and Philogene, options on the right. Kamara and Onana. Sounds like one of the tweenies. Kamara and Onana as your midfield two, with McGinn or Tielemans off the left coming in to help form a three.
Ramsey as well.
Exactly. Ramsey as well. Watkins with Duran as your striker options, and Rodgers as your support man. So if someone does come in,
and you've got Buendia as well there, Barkley too. There's a lot there, and I think people will be saying, but is Buendia good enough for where we want to? I don't know. Like, we're just gonna have to wait and see on that one. But again, we can't keep stockpiling. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's fine. But if we do sign somebody for, I don't know, 40 to 60 million pounds, and they come in and you go, well, they have to start now. If that halts Jacob Ramsey or Morgan Rodgers' development, who look brilliant players, I know everyone's still going to get game time, but much less if they're the starting choice and then all of a sudden they're not. See, it's a very fine balanced squad building. It's a really interesting part of football now that I probably didn't pay much attention to 5 or 6 years ago, but actually building a proper squad. This is the first time we've experienced it, a squad that has to compete on all fronts, a squad that will want to get back into the Champions League again or the Europa League. This isn't just one season, well, we did well, but we can't really do much more here, so we'll have 14 players, and if we slip down the league, so be it. We had fun, right? We need to build a proper squad that can compete again, and that's something that, as Villa fans, well, it's not just people of our time, we've not seen that for a long time.
Yeah, with Felix as well, his price wasn't going to be 60 million. I think the offer that Chelsea have got that I think is accepted, or might be, is like 40 million euros or there or thereabouts. So Villa wouldn't be brave. Villa can afford that. I think they were kind of just willing to bide the time on it because there weren't really any of the suitors, and they could probably get the right price. I don't think Villa have the capacity, or at least basically put it this way: if not signing a forward means that we then don't have to sell players next summer because of PSR or SCR and UEFA, I don't want to do it. Because I'm pretty content where we are. What I don't want to do is just to sign a player that's worth 35, 40 million pounds who doesn't actually add another, who doesn't allow us to go that extra step, basically. Like, for me, Felix was a great opportunity because he's 35, 40 million pounds-ish, which for a player who's 110, 130 million pounds in euros 5 years ago, he's still a great talent, and Emery clearly saw that he could do something with him. So for 35 million quid, do it, because there's a good chance that actually he could be the 70 million pound to 100 million pound player that he was previously. Unless we have that in another player who, on the top of my head, I don't know of. Unless we can see that elsewhere, I don't want us to spend 30 million pounds on another player, because that is what we had in Buendia. That is what we have in Rodgers. That is what we have in all the other players that we've mentioned there. I don't think another 30 million pound player who is a 30 million pound player kind of takes us to that new level. I'm not too sure. Whereas Felix felt like a 30 million pound player with the capacity of becoming what he was. That was why I was so interested by Felix, and the profile that he is. You can see how it fits, because he's a player who is good in tight spaces, has an eye for goal, who would be able to link play. Rodgers is a very different player, which is fine. I want to have something a bit more different, but again, we saw last season we beat most teams without a different player. So yeah, if it means that we don't have to sell someone next summer or anything like that and kind of keep our books clean as such, I don't want us to just buy a player for the sake of it, and I'm sure the club won't do that either.
Another question here from I Am Priest, who says, in previous seasons, we've used early League Cup or Conference League rounds to give our squad players a run out. As the Champions League games will most likely require our best 11, how do you manage this squad? It's kind of the same conversation we're having about building it. You know, then managing it and keeping people happy is not easy either.
I'm excited by it, to be honest. I think,
me too.
At least at this point, there are going to be players who play in both. So Pau Torres is, to be fair, Mings coming back may change that later in the season because it'll be a long season. But for now, I'm talking like the first 4 games of the Champions League, which would take us up to about November time. Pau Torres would play every game. Konsa would play every game. Martinez would play every game. Onana, I think, would probably play every game because he's a profile that if you don't have in your team, there's no replacement for that. Kamara does it in a different way. Watkins would play every game or start every game pretty soon, unless he was looking tired or whatever, but that hasn't been a problem previously. And then I think there's probably question marks over the rest, to be honest, which is a good thing, because then you think, well, it's Rodgers or Ramsey, it's McGinn or Tielemans, it's Barkley as well you can throw into that, it's Bailey or Philogene. And by the way, Philogene I thought was really good against West Ham. I think he made a really good impact. The right-back situation is something that I almost don't want to touch at the moment because we don't know what's going to happen there. The left-back situation, though, as I said before, we probably have the best 2 pairings in the league, really, in terms of actual left-backs, like proper left-backs. So Dean or Maatsen. We've got really good options. And this is, to be fair, without injuries. Injuries will happen, so we'll see what happens in that regard. But injuries won't happen as much, I don't think, if we rotate. So you know what? It could even be like to kind of flip it on a positive. Rotating the team as much as what we can do now may limit the injuries that we have.
That's the point you hope for, isn't it? That you're not flogging players, basically. You're going to have to play 85 minutes today and next week and Wednesday and then the following Saturday and then the following Thursday all the time. Yes, there are going to be some players that are going to play, as you know, as you've touched on, there's probably 5 or 6 that will play in every game if possible. But there's others that with, 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go, you think, well, we're either in a position where we're already winning or we're comfortable here that we may go on to win anyway. That you go, well, we can take, when was the last time McGinn was substituted with half an hour to go? I know it's the first game, so slightly different, but him coming off with Watkins obviously not had a pre-season, so that's more explainable. But I don't think that was just a first day of the season thing. I think you'll see Emery use his substitutions earlier in games. I think we'll have more options. The thing that we opened the show with, that we've got a younger profile coming onto the game, so in theory, energy, desire, whatever, that's a different thing, to bring on. It's not going to work in this way more often than the other way around, but bringing Maatsen on for energy is a much better change than bringing Dean on to be conservative and to be different. But again, if the game requires that, if it requires something different, that's the options that we now have. So it's what we spoke about throughout the summer, that Emery now has more solutions to change games, to win games, rather than going, well, there's 11 players there plus probably 3 or 4 that could actually come on and do something. You now look at that bench, and again, me and Matt spoke about this on the post-match. That bench, there's probably 4 or 5 players on that. If they started games every week, you go, that's a great side.
As soon as we were given the team sheet in the London Stadium, I looked at it and thought, like, wow, like that. The options are there. I wrote about it afterwards, saying, well, it's no surprise that the 3 substitutes combined, because it's one thing saying, and it said a lot like, oh, substitutes can change games and you need options. But as you say that's because West Ham were weary, and we honestly, I feel like we could score that goal with like mannequins there because it was that good and it was that kind of, it wasn't unstoppable as such, but the move was so fluid and everyone knew exactly what they were doing. The West Ham players were just watching it happen, and it was like they weren't involved in the game. It was literally like it just come off the training ground. And again, a key reason to that is because West Ham, as I say, were weary mentally as well at that point in the game. They probably thought, oh, we can get away with the draw here, just keep a lid on Durano. Where is he out to goal? Like that's how quick it was. So yeah, substitutes will change games for Villa throughout the season. You just want the injuries to ease up on us this season. You're hoping that we had really bad luck last year and that we can kind of get away with it as such now because we have lots of options.
Next question is from This Is Rich Lord, who says, seeing as we can make 5 subs now and we showed a great impact from the bench versus West Ham, who are Villa's all-time super subs? This is a great question that I'm actually going to open up to the comments, because our era, and we were discussing this before we answered it, John, we were rubbish when we grew up. So there's not really anyone I can think of as we film this that's like an immediate standout.
The name you said kind of sums up exactly what you'd say.
Yeah, El Ghazi off, Trezeguet on, or the other way around.
And the sad thing is that Trezeguet actually did have a decent impact, but that is as good as it gets, really, I think, for our...
It's hard, isn't it, Super Sub? Because I'm thinking back to like the O'Neill days. We didn't really like the 11 that started was like the 11, and the options weren't brilliant. And then in the era after that, Lambert days, yeah, the same. Then kind of a slow decline to relegation. I can't think of any super subs there that spring to mind.
No, trying to think of strikers coming off the bench. Like, I know that Kevin Phillips would sometimes come off the bench and score. I don't know about if it was for Villa or not, but he had a reputation of doing it for other clubs.
So we're not great position to answer this. So if there's anyone who can think of a great Villa all-time super sub, get involved in the YouTube comments on that one. Obviously, Duran at the moment is a super sub, I would say.
Yeah.
Trying to think about the promotion era.
If it weren't Tammy, who was playing instead of Tammy? Davis. To be fair, I did have that. I did have that stat on Keenan Davis that I brought up before. That was a mental stat. Keenan Davis was a super sub, mate.
I guarantee, by the way, we have missed somebody as a stonewaller for a Villa all-time sub maker appearance person who is good, and people in the comments were going, "How did you forget Marlon Harewood or whatever?" Marlon Harewood.
I saw Marlon Harewood at West Ham.
Did you? Did you say hello?
I won't say his number plate, but
is it M4R?
No,
L0N.
No, it's like a nickname. But nice car, nice number plate. He works in cars now, doesn't he? So none of those things surprise me. So.
Okay, right. Let's move on. From Ad, who says, how far can you go back on the Villa legacy number list to find a player you've seen play live? I've gone back to Gordon Cowans at 5'8", although I feel like I've cheated slightly as I saw him play in 1993, which is a cheat, Ad. And I said that on Twitter. Threads, sorry. I had a look through this legacy list. I don't know whether you already have, but I've had a guess at what yours is, I think.
I think you'd get it as well.
I think I've been able to work them out. So if anyone who hasn't seen this, Villa released a list of 1,000 players now who have played for Villa. Costa Nedeljkovic, fair play to him, the 1,000th player. I hope he's aware of that stat. There's been 1,000 players to have professionally featured for Aston Villa over the years, and the club website has split it up into 0 to 200, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, etc. Somebody else asked us to pick the best player from each category, and I haven't had time to go through and work that out. I think that'd be very difficult, especially for the earlier years. But this question asks us, when was the earliest player we saw play live for Villa in that list? So I've got it too. These are my guesses for you. Mine's, I think, pretty nailed on. So I've got mine as being 712. Do you want to guess who this could be?
Milan Barros.
Good shout, but wrong. I've got Lee Hendry.
Okay.
And it wouldn't have been as early as 712 as in that would be when he made his debut.
Do you remember?
It would have been the back end of his career. My first season ticket was either 2006 or 2007, which I think Hendry had just gone by then. But I'd started to just about pay attention to Villa games in the couple of years before that. So I'd have seen, I think Hendry is my pick. One that is a definite for me, though, and I think this will be your one, is 724.
Gareth Barry.
Yeah,
that would have been mine as well. Yeah, he was quite low down because
it's a little bit cheaty, isn't it? Because he would have come in and got his number in 97 or 98 or something like that. So we didn't see him play then, but obviously he went on to have such a long career that we'd have seen him well into the 2010s.
Well, he would be the first player that I watched. First player that I would have watched. I can't remember him playing though. Like weirdly, I don't know. I can't remember.
Really? That does make you sound young.
But that is probably because when I watched those games, I was probably watching other things, and I really like Ashley Young, for example. So I'd be staring at him, seeing what he was doing when Gareth Barry wasn't particularly interested in back at my age then. So that was probably why. But I can't visualize him playing. So yeah, but on that list, defo.
Yeah, I thought that's who yours would be, just because again it goes back nice and far enough. But you actually watched him at the end of his career. Same for Hendry for me, really. But yeah, a definite Gareth Barry for me as well. Again, I've seen some go right far back into those early mid 500, 600. Which is great.
I really want them to continue updating that list because I think it's really cool. But I want them to make a separate tab on the website or something saying our legacy numbers or something. Like Tottenham have it on the back of the shirts, I think now, which Villa don't have to go that far to doing. But I really like the list. Like my, I think I said before, my granddad previously played for Villa and stuff, and he got really emotional seeing that his name is just on the list because
really nice.
The amount of pride that those people would have had, because when he's getting on now, obviously, but just to be kind of recognised as a Villa player, even if you weren't as memorable as many other players, just being there for their family as well, like my family, it's incredibly proud moment to see someone there that you obviously are related to.
Is that on your mum's side?
Yeah. It's not my second name, but
I was going to say I was looking for a Townley, couldn't see it.
No, really, it means an awful lot to those people, genuinely. So to see it's really fantastic initiative by the club, and I don't know if anyone's been left out of the list, but it seems like they've got everyone because my granddad didn't play many games. But yeah, to see him there was fantastic.
Okay, let's move on then. Penultimate question from Danny, who asks, I went to the new club shop and looked at the lion centrepiece for a while, reading all the captains' names.
Have you been there?
No, I've not been there yet. My dad's been. He said it's nice. Have you been in?
No.
No, okay. Well, there's a big lion made out of bricks that they project pictures onto stuff, and the bricks have got the names of the captains onto them, which is where this question is going.
Yeah.
She says, it left me with some mixed emotions and memories. Out of all the players to have captained Villa, who is your favourite? Which one do you wish hadn't been etched into one of these bricks? Who's a bad captain? I'm pretty certain Michael Richards will be on there. That feels like the obvious answer. I'm pretty sure there's a wall at Bodymore, isn't there, with captains' names on, and Richards' name stands out as a sore thumb on that list.
Yeah, there are a few names where you just think, ideally you want a captain there who means a bit more, and on that list it needs to be a player who has done something substantial or had a certain connection with fans. Richards, I don't think had that. So, my favourite would be, I don't know, I'd probably say McGinn, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought you would.
Mings as well. One of the two kind of just resembles, Grealish, at a time for sure, and still will be one of my favourite Villa players, but can't really put him on that level now because he left, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? This question always usually comes back to the first, or who's the captain when you first started watching, or the captain that won a trophy or something. So Andy Townsend will be some people's favourite captain because he was the last captain to lift a trophy for us a million years ago. Melberg, Larson, Gareth Barry, that's my kind of era of coming through and supporting Villa for the first time. So I'd pick one of those probably. But yeah, you're right, McGinn, Mings are both decent shouts. Yeah. Petrov had a spell at club captain as well. Yeah. So any of that kind of era would be my pick, I think. We've got one silly question this week.
Okay.
I say silly. Silly undermines it a little bit. When I say silly, I mean all of the questions are football related, and then the silly section is non-football related. So from Emmy DeMac, they ask, silly question, if you could only pick one carb for the rest of your life, would it be rice, pasta, potatoes, or bread?
Rice.
Nah, rice. Get out. That's the worst one of that list.
Are you joking me? Really?
Rice, pasta, potatoes, bread. Rice is fourth easily.
What? Rice is so versatile. What are you talking? Sorry, what was it? What did they put? Potato, bread. To be fair, potato. I don't like potato, which is mad. Rice, bread.
This is what I mean. You come onto this podcast and you berate me for not agreeing with rice, and then you say I don't like potato. One of the most common things that people eat.
No, it's like baby food, man. I don't like soft food. Ugh.
But again, you talk about rice being versatile. I can think of egg fried rice, and for sushi, with potato, you've got. Hang on a minute. Potato, you've got chips.
No. I didn't mean
roast potato.
I didn't mean the spoil of rice.
Crisps.
I have. Right, I have 1.5 kilograms of plain white rice a week. Like, it is so versatile. Chicken, anything, rice, meat, veg. There you go.
1.5 kilos of rice per week.
Got like a massive, massive rice tub. Just makes them every week. You know what I mean?
Oh God! I'll open this up to the comments. I like a bit of a debate. I reckon if you're putting those in order, rice is last 100%.
No, it's not. That's a joke, right? No, seriously, think about it. If you're having it's a general meal, like you've cooked some chicken, you've got some veg. What do you have with that? Do you have tagliatelle? No.
I'd pick pasta.
Do you? Oh, that's weird. Sorry. I can't agree with that. You don't have pasta with if I was out doing like a spag bowl, which I do as well, but you don't.
Which I do as well.
Right, I can't get on that at all.
I would have, if I was going to have if you're saying like a chicken breast and a broccoli or whatever as like a dish, and then you got rice, I would have the pasta with the chicken chopped up in it with like a sauce, and then I get the broccoli and like a bowl.
There's only so many times you can have that. There's only, if you had that today, would you have it tomorrow? No.
Yeah.
You'd have. Would you really?
Well, yeah, but rice is surely as
so
boring.
Versatile. But rice, you don't think about it when you eat rice. You just think, all right, that's there. I'm going to eat it, and you don't think about it. But with pasta, it's kind of like I'm eating pasta. I know I'm eating pasta, and the next day, I know. No, do you know what I mean?
Oh, I can't do this podcast anymore.
Potato, I get is versatile, but that's just a preference. I don't rate it. I just think it's too there. And then bread.
No shouts for bread. I was going to say, we've not touched on bread.
Bread. Again, what you're doing with that, like a wrap and a sandwich, I think that gets very, very boring. If you don't have toast with a meal.
No, but toast for breakfast.
Yeah, but then you can't just have toast for breakfast and then think, oh, what am I going to have with my dinner later?
Comment of the week. This one's from Mark Davis on YouTube. Now, this was difficult to pick a comment of the week because this was obviously last Monday. We've played a game since then. Things go out of date quite quickly in football. A lot of comments are talking about things that are now no longer relevant. But this one says, realistic goal and assist targets. Buendia, 3 goals, 3 assists. Ramsey, 7 goals, 3 assists. Rodgers, 7 goals, 3 assists. Philogene, 3 goals, 5 assists. And Nana, 2 goals, 2 assists. So already got one of those since. So that's pretty good. And whoever is on penalties also. There are 38 goal contributions there. I think we'll be fine if these numbers are achieved, and they could also be surpassed too. So this was in response to the worry of losing Diaby and Luiz's contributions. What will the others make up to replace them? Somebody else in the comment beneath this one said Duran, 12 goals, 1 assist. Watkins, 20 goals, 10 assists. Bailey, 10 and 10. And then McGinn and Tielemans, question mark. I do agree that I think there is goals across this team. And as I said in the season preview, having an absolute mass of goals that Villa need to score 80 goals or whatever to be good isn't necessarily true or as reliant on as we may have thought if we just start being better defensively. We don't need to win games 3-2 if we can win them 1-0.
Yeah.
It's a very kind of simplistic way of looking at it, but I'm a simple man.
Makes sense, though. Yeah, and although those figures are just guesses, I think it proves that we have the capacity to do it, and that's the key thing. We don't know if Philogene gets injured or Bailey gets injured or Ramsey or Buendia. Things happen. Like Ramsey, no one would have said Ramsey would get 1 goal last season, but he did because he was injured. Hopefully, that isn't going to be the case this campaign. Same with Rodgers, Watkins, etc., etc. But we have the capacity to do it. So if we have our squad fully fit for most of the campaign, then I got no real issue with it, but that's obviously wishful thinking. Things can change. So that's why we are talking about, or why we spoke about, replacing Diaby. For me, wasn't a massive issue in terms of the goal contributions, because as I said, Ramsey and Rodgers is improving. Ramsey's going to have an actual season, hopefully this year. Philogene's coming back. For me, it was mainly the Luiz side of it, because how are we going to replace that? And Tielemans had a great game against West Ham, and we'll see how that continues. But Onana may play with Kamara when Kamara comes back. So there's definitely still some kind of question marks over that part of it. But I'm not sitting there thinking, oh, that's a massive worry. Do we need to bring someone else in? That's absolutely not the case. So I'm pretty content where we are with all of our players above the defence, basically. A good comment, because we have the capacity basically to do it without Luiz and Diaby, but we'll see what happens in the remaining days of the window as well.
And that is a wrap, John, on this week's Q&A. Thank you very much for joining me, as always. It feels like a slightly longer episode this week with so much discussed. You got a little smirk on your face, John? Are you about to say something?
Yeah, I was going to make a joke about bread because you said it's a wrap. Yeah.
Ah, nice. Fair play. This is what we're here for. You're just thinking about it so much, put a smile on your face. Yeah, fair play. Thoroughly enjoyable, as always. Always nice to talk about Aston Villa on the podcast when we're winning games, of course. Upcoming next on Wednesday, we're going to release an episode with Pete Hitchman, who is the author, I suppose now, of the Aston Villa photography book that is coming out. You'll hear more about that on Wednesday. I filmed with him this morning. Really nice little 30-minute episode about some of the best photographs from Aston Villa's historic season last year, and how you can pay for that book and get a copy yourself. On Friday, we'll have our Inside Bodymore shows. We preview Arsenal after the press conference. That'll probably be a live stream, as it was last week. And on Saturday evening, myself and Kendrick will be back for the post-match reaction as well. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. Thanks, everyone, for getting involved on Threads with the questions. I'll probably do the same again next week. So if you want to follow John and I on Instagram's version of Twitter, you can do so. Link will be in the description. As is the NordVPN delicious discount code. Delicious discount code is much harder to say, so I'm probably going to drop that after this episode. But John, thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode. We'll see you Wednesday, or possibly Tuesday if something else happens, but definitely Wednesday.